Good morning. It's Tuesday, March 11th. We're all back from town meeting break. We got a lot of action here this week. Try to get a couple bills passed out before crossover. But the most important bill that we have before us right now is we have confirmation on Secretary Anson Tebbetts. I think that we are all very comfortable with the job that the secretary is doing, and we're not going to bring him in and grill him. Talk with him. So I'm going to ask the committee if we could take a vote on that.
I move we vote to accept his nomination.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, and if the clerk would call the roll, please.
I will. Senator Calmore.
Yeah.
Senator Heffernan says yes. Senator Majors.
Yes.
Senator Plunkett.
Yes.
Senator Ingalls.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous.
Well, good. Thank you guys for all that. We're going to spend some time with. Oh, I'm sorry.
Who's going to be reporting it?
I will. Yep. Gonna call away from here the longest and get the best relation.
And if you can, I'll email me just a quick bio.
I can.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to spend a few minutes with our Deputy Chief Counsel, Office of Legislative Counsel, Michael O'Grady. We're going to talk about some miscellaneous ag subjects, and then I understand that he might have another commitment about 10:30. It might have to disappear for a little bit, which we'll take a break, and then we'll start back at 11. But until then, welcome, sir. The floor is yours.
This is Mike O'Grady with Legislative Counsel. I walked through draft 25-0904, which is the miscellaneous ag bill with you before crossover. That is the bill that makes kind of tailored changes to the agency's agricultural water quality program in order to comply with the EPA order that ANR was not complying with the Federal Clean Water Act's NIFTY's permit for concentrated animal feeding operations. I don't know if you have questions about the miscellaneous ag bill or how you would like me to proceed.
Oh, God, I don't know. Ready? We have any questions about the miscellaneous ag bill that we probably are just ready to take a little bit of testimony on it or hear from Steve Collier and maybe Julie Moore and all of that. Anybody got anything else that Mr. O'Grady should go over with us? I mean, we did the walkthrough.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Michael, I'm trying to remember the walkthrough, and it's been a week or so. Does this bill change the jurisdictional authority from the Agency of Ag over to the Agency of Natural Resources entirely, or is it even addressed?
It does not entirely shift jurisdiction. Technically, right now, the agencies have the split in jurisdiction.
Correct.
That is required under the Federal Clean Water Act. But EPA has said to ANR is that you're not implementing that authority sufficiently to meet the Federal Clean Water Act requirements for delegation. And you have to enter into some corrective plan in order to do that. Part of the corrective plan is that ANR has to be clearly the lead enforcement agency for purposes of investigations and enforcement of discharges at concentrated animal feeding operations. And that means some of the language in Title VI, the Agency of Agriculture's language, needs to be revised. Instead of them having a memorandum of understanding of how they're going to cooperate on enforcement, there's going to be a document that sets out what ANR's authorities are and what the Agency of Ag's authority will be or is. And so it is not what some of the advocates are proposing, which is taking the entire ag water quality program from the Agency of Agriculture and putting it over at the Agency of Natural Resources. There is other language that is circulating, right, that the the Agency of Natural Resources needs its authority to be amended as well to clearly indicate what EPA wants them to do, and also to revise some definitions so that what, because I'll just step back. The definition of water in Title 10 for state permitting is much broader than the definition of waters under the Federal Clean Water Act. So if you went with the state's definition of waters and any concentrated animal feeding operation that would have a discharge, there would be theoretically a much broader universe of CAFOs that would be subject to ANR's authority. So if you just go with the federal definition of waters, there's fewer farms that are going to be subject to regulation. So ANR is proposing to have that narrower federal definition for purposes of the concentrated animal feeding operation program, which I think makes sense for purposes of the cost and staffing and the ability to implement. But that's not in this bill.
That's the bill you're referencing is, the bill that Senator Hardy has introduced.
Yes. And so that's not in this bill. The Agency of Ag just proposed to you what they need to do. But this is only a half measure in response to what EPA has requested to be done, not required to be done. So I don't know how that gets addressed. I mean, you could pass this with the idea that when it comes back from the House or coordination with the House puts on this, what needs to be done for ANR, or maybe the Natural Resources Committee is going to pass something. I don't know. I am scheduled to testify this week on
You are or not?
Okay. In Senate Natural on both Senator Hardy's bill and the proposal to shift everything. But they're especially the shift everything proposal has questions that
Two separate bills.
The inconsistency or the different definitions in the water from one bill or law to the next, would it create problems? Because one is federal and one is state.
Well, what you would do is you would put a definition of the federal definition in the state law and then apply that to the concentrated animal feeding operation program at ANR, which is what the language that ANR does. Because the definition of waters under state law right now for a discharged water is anything, like anything. And the discharge under the state, under federal law is, it has to be a navigable water or a tributary of a navigable water or a wetland that's surface connected to a navigable water or a tributary of a navigable water. So it is not everything. It's not your brook. It's not your pond. It's not things that are not part of the navigable waterway system.
We're staying focused on this miscellaneous bill. The only thing that I hate to use the word only thing, but the thing that we're trying to do here is to clarify that the Agency of Agriculture is ceding some of their authority or the authority for enforcement to ANR. And I mean, just keeping things clear as far as Agency of Agriculture still plays a role, but the enforcement part of the water quality is going to ANR.
Not entirely. Because remember, ANR's authority is only over those farms that have a discharge. And they have to go out and inspect those farms to determine if there is a discharge. If there's no discharge, then A&R doesn't have authority over it. And then if there's no discharge, then the agency of ag is going to regulate that.
Correct.
So what happens is there needs to be that inspection and determination by A&R if CAFO permit is needed. If no CAFO permit is needed, then the agency of ag is going to continue to regulate that farm under whatever program, whatever tier, large, medium, or small, that farm fits under. I'll be honest, I think all large farms are going to wind up as CAFOs. Because I think just the degree of activity on a large farm is probably too difficult for the farm to control in a way that prevents all discharges. I'm not saying that they don't try, they do. But I would expect that A&R is going to be able to go out onto most, if not all, large farms and find a discharge and then say that they need to get a CAFO permit.
So can we have language that just says that A&R is responsible just for CAFO permit? That's it.
That is what the language that A&R is circulating is doing.
Okay.
But it's not in this bill.
Can we amend this bill to have that? And is that something?
I was gonna ask, how big is that bill? Is it?
It's about the same size as this bill. It's about 20 pages long.
And A&R is wanting this, correct? There wouldn't be like.
I think they both want it, right?
They
I
both.
mean, they want the division, but they also want to have the rulemaking as far as what these bills are doing.
Right. I mean, it's not, they want it, they need it. Because if EPA is part of the corrective action list said they have to make necessary legislative and regulatory changes to clarify the authority and their effectively ability to go out, inspect and permit CAFOs that have a discharge. And so that's what A&R's language does. I'm not really sure why they did it separately.
Wouldn't we be passing almost something incomplete if we didn't have that language in here?
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid perspective.
And does it need to be as lengthy as what A&R is trying to push out for the bill, or can we condense it into a few paragraphs?
The secretary will be in at 11 as well. So today, of A&R, Julie Moore.
I would say that I think what they proposed is relatively tailored. For a water quality bill, a 20-page bill is not a long bill.
So we can ask the secretary point blank, why can't we take her language and put it in this bill? And they can continue on with their bill over there if they'd like. But, to make us whole.
I will say that it's probably going to go to Ways and Means and or appropriation. The A&R bill definitely is going to, but on page 9 of your bill, there's a provision related to fees that a farm would have to pay.
Right, 2,500.
And the Senate Secretary is pretty diligent in referring anything that has a fee to it to find it. So this is probably not done just this week. It's going to have to go through the money committees next week as well.
Everybody kind of clear on so far, about clear as mud? But clear enough to where we can continue the conversation with Secretary Moore when she comes in, and you'll be here, sir?
Yeah, I had to go to Right to Farm and Judiciary at 10:30, but I don't know how long that's going to be, but I'm only scheduled for half an hour.
Okay.
Is it likely they're gonna vote that bill out? Okay,
Well, I know they're here tomorrow with it, so they're here to do a drive-by with us tomorrow on it, so.
but it has to leave one of the committees unless there's money involved. By Friday, correct?
Yeah, there's no money in it.
Yeah.
And you're a one committee legislature, so if you wanted possession of it, you'd have to move to take possession of it.
I think we've been pretty amicable about it so far, so.
No, I
So I think it's,
just looking at it.
yeah,
If it doesn't move by one of the committees by Friday, we won't have anything to offer, so.
But there is the miscellaneous agricultural.
Yes, no.
Remember that there. Always a
Vehicle.
option for you all.
well, I think we're okay for right now. I think we've, got an understanding. We're gonna ask the same questions again here at about 11 o'clock. And, so, sir, thank you. We'll, step away for, unless there's any more discussion about any of this, but right now we'll step away.